What do you gain from arguing, and what do you lose every single time that you argue with anybody? Have you ever actually asked yourself these questions? It's very important to know the mathematics behind arguing and the psychology behind it, why people do it. If you arm yourself with this knowledge, you'll be able to navigate through life a lot easier. A lot of you are arguing with your wives or your girlfriends, and you might think that you're winning because you're proving your point. But every time that you argue, you lose. There is absolutely no winning with arguing. Arguments are always a losing situation. Let me explain to you the psychology of arguing. When you argue, you are trying to extract validation from another person who does not have the same opinion as you. With a woman, it is 10 times more counterproductive when you argue. You are trying to extract validation from a woman who you should want absolutely no validation from. Arguing comes from an emotional standpoint. Arguing requires you to react. It requires you to care so much about being right that you forget to listen. And if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you would know that a woman needs to be heard and understood in order for her to open up to you, to be feminine, to feel safe. Arguing is the absolute worst thing you could do with a woman because it proves that, one, you're not listening, and two, you're trying to prove your point. You're trying to win. You're trying to extract validation for your ideologies, for you being right. And coming from an emotional place, arguments are going to trigger certain emotions in a woman that you do not want to trigger ever. It is an absolute major sign of weakness when a man argues with anybody. There is no winning, no matter how good you are at arguing. Let me explain that. Let's say that you were arguing with your wife, okay? Usually it's something small, something minute, right? Always starts with something small. And you decide, hey, I'm going to prove that I'm right and try to correct her. What you're actually doing is you are revealing your position of weakness, your position of emotional volatility, and your massive ego that needs to be proven right. And even if you win the argument, you cause resentment in the person that was proven wrong. Worst case scenario, you cause resentment in your wife because you wanted to be right. Best case scenario, you lose an argument, you still outed yourself as an emotional wreck who needs to argue to get his point across. If you need to argue to get your point across, you're very weak. you've already lost the battle before it even started. You see, women are emotional creatures. They feel a lot of emotions, okay? A woman is loyal to her emotions. A man can be loyal to a woman unconditionally. But women, the moment that their emotions shift, they are loyal to their emotions. So by arguing with her, even if you win, you cause resentment. And when she starts feeling that, and you start giving her the ick because you're an emotional arguing wreck, you cannot undo those emotions. You are going to have a giant mountain that you're going to have to try to climb out of. Actually, you're going to dig yourself a very big hole that you're going to have to somehow try to claw your way out of to try to get her to open up again. And the more that you argue, the more that you plead your case, the deeper the hole gets. That's why there's so many marriages right now where men are sitting there confused. Well, what did I do wrong? You did everything wrong. You argued when you should have listened. The smart thing to do is lose the argument on purpose, even if you're right. You have absolutely nothing to gain from winning an argument, but everything to lose. The next time your wife comes over and tells you something along the lines of, hey, I'm not happy because you're not helping around the house. Instead of defending that, starting an argument, and listing one by one all the things you do for her emotionally, you have to think logically and lead the conversation, right? A woman isn't coming to you to tell you, hey, I'm mad at you because you don't clean up as much as I do. What she's telling you is, hey, I'm not feeling connected to you right now. I think that the only way that I can express myself is to bring up your lack of effort. And a lot of times they tell you, you don't do enough around the house. So instead of starting an argument, try to understand. Try to listen. You ask her a certain question, something along the lines of, tell me how that makes you feel. You're not trying to be logical with her. You're not trying to prove to her that you are this amazing husband that cleans up, does 20 tasks a day on the to-do list. You're not trying to prove to her that you are worthy. You know you're worthy, and you understand that she's coming to you with emotion. So you need to listen and understand what her true emotions are. You got to read between the lines. And just ask her questions, emotional ones. How does that make you feel? So you're saying that every time that I don't clean up after myself, it makes you feel like I don't care about you. And then you shut up. You just listen. Listen to her emotions. You got to read between the lines. If you do that, your course, direction in life will be corrected. She will feel heard and understood. It's not about cleaning. It's about her not feeling connected. There is some women who are more devious, who will try to manipulate you with, you don't do enough, things like that. But you have to be able to spot the difference. By this point, if you're with a woman long term, I would have hoped that you had vetted her properly and you're not dating or married to a raging narcissist whose only goal is to make your life miserable. We're talking about a healthy woman who doesn't know how to talk to you about how she's feeling. So the only way it comes out is through arguments. Maybe your dynamic in your relationship has turned into a relationship where the only way that she ever feels like you listen to her is when she starts arguments. Unfortunately, there's a lot of relationships like that. So shift your mindset from being right and proving yourself to listening to what she's really trying to tell you. Open her up emotionally. Find out how she really feels deep inside. That is how you win in this game of chess. Arguing is the complete, total opposite of that. It is an ego battle. A man who is masculine, who is in his center, has absolutely no need to prove himself to anybody. As a matter of fact, the less he has to explain himself, the better. You're able to create more mystery and move through life a lot more strategically when you're not blabbering about every little thing you do and explaining yourself to people. You just do, and the results speak for themselves. Arguing is the total opposite of that. A truly masculine man does not argue ever with anybody. Not his wife, not his girlfriend, not his mom, not his sister, not his brother, not a stranger on the street, not a client, not a coworker. You just don't ever argue. If you're truly masculine and in your center, you have absolutely no time and energy to spend arguing with people because you understand that an argument is always a lose situation. Arguing creates resentment in people. Arguing makes you look weak and emotionally volatile. It makes you look like an emotional wreck. Like you have something to prove. Like you need to be right. That the person needs to validate that you are correct in this. Why do you care? Why do you want that? If you want to make true friends, if you want a happy relationship, if you want to be able to influence people, stop seeking validation through arguments and learn that a true strategist does not argue ever. There is no point in arguing whatsoever. It'll only cause resentment. It'll make you look weak. It'll make you look desperate. Somebody comes and tells you, hey, the sky is green. Okay. The sky is green. Sure. And then you move on. You continue on with your purpose, with your path, with your strategy, with whatever it is that you have going on in life. You don't stop and argue, no, the sky is blue. Obviously, the fucking sky is blue. Why do you need to prove to anybody that the sky is blue? For what reason? What purpose does it serve you to spend energy in your precious day arguing about why the sky is blue and not green with some guy that clearly is deranged, right? If somebody comes to you and tells you that the sky is green, you'd probably think they're on drugs. So why spend your time trying to prove your point? It's the same thing with every single argument in this world. Why spend your precious energy arguing over anything, even if you're right? There's nothing to gain from it. On the contrary, when you actually listen to people, even when they're arguing with you, you just listen. And you listen very intently. You're going to gain a ton of friends. You're going to gain a ton of allies. You're going to gain a ton of influence. Because one of the strongest desires in human nature, one of the strongest desires in human nature is to feel important. People want to feel important. That is why there is expensive things that people can buy, because it makes them feel important. That's why people buy luxury cars and luxury watches, luxury clothes. They buy status because it makes them feel important. If you listen to people, you will make them feel important. And even if they're yelling at you that the sky is green and you just listen, all of a sudden they'll forget about what they were arguing about. And why is this guy listening so much? He makes me feel understood. He makes me feel like he cares. Just by listening. The power of listening instead of arguing is infinite. You will make every single person feel so important. And you will gain a ton of power by listening twice as much as you speak. That is why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, so we can listen more and yap less. Again, there's no point in arguing ever. A true masculine man never, ever, ever argues.